I'm gonna share something with y'all right fast. At the whole thing is beginning, but like I said before, Malcolm X said it best. You are your worst enemy. I said that, but he said a black Democrat is a traitor to their own race. So I'm saying you are your worst enemy.
Contributor talking about the current state of the elections in the United States and what they represent. So, Trevor, it's a real pleasure having you here.
Most welcome, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Now, first up, I'm curious. You've been watching these communist socialist groups for more than 30 years. You've watched how they've gotten involved in the political systems. You've watched how they've been involved very recently in the riots, different movements in the U.S. And you've, of course, watched what their agendas are. How do you see these agendas playing out in the current time? What does this really represent?
Well, you have a network of pro-Chinese communist parties in this country. Communist Party USA, Liberation Road, Freedom Road Socialist Organization. All of them helped with the propaganda over the COVID. The Chinese line was force shutdowns, shut down everything. All of them were involved in promoting that and also saying how wonderful China was because China's handling it so well. So bringing down America, promoting the Chinese line. Then they were all involved in promoting the massive wave of rioting that took part in this country. That was specifically the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, which instigated the rioting and organized it in cities like Milwaukee, Kenosha, cities in Florida, Houston, Dallas, Salt Lake City, etc., and Liberation Road, which is the group behind Black Lives Matter, which did organize most of the riots and protests in other cities. Communist Party USA joined in, other groups joined in, but those two pro-Chinese communist groups were the main instigators. And then, to top it all off, you have these same pro-Chinese communist parties running big voter registration drives in targeted states, the key swing states, signing up hundreds of thousands of low propensity voters, mainly in the minority communities, so they could lift the Democrat vote total enough to either win outright or lift it up enough where a little bit of fraud on top wouldn't be noticed. So the Chinese, through their communist networks in this country, were able to promote the COVID propaganda. They were able to burn American cities all across the country and bring the country to the point of chaos. And then they were able to target and specifically influence key elections across the country. They openly claim credit for swinging the election in 6 key states for Biden. They openly claim credit for this.
Now, Trevor, what evidence can we show people when it comes to these groups having been involved in the elections and having ties to China?
Well, if you go through the publications of groups like Freedom Road Socialist Organization and Liberation Road, they openly talk of their ties to China. It's there. They have big posters of Mao. They quote Communist China. They send delegations to China. They talk about their support for China. But the general public doesn't see this. But the evidence I'm talking about is monitoring. If you monitor their communications, their Zoom networks, their Zoom conferences, their internal publications, which I have some access to, there you will find much more evidence of open communication with the Chinese consulate, for instance, in San Francisco, openly working with the Chinese officials in New York. The Boston communists work with the New York communists on that. So the evidence is there if you dig for it. They're much more open than you think they might be. It's really a matter of connecting the dots. But because there is no media scrutiny on these communist groups, and the FBI hasn't even gone after them for years, they are a lot more open than maybe it's wise for them to be. You read their publications, they talk about organising the riots, they admit they organised the riots, They take credit for organizing the riots. They openly talk about how China is leading the world in dealing with the COVID. They openly propagandize for increased shutdowns in this country. They use their power in the unions to keep teachers away from schools, to shut down businesses who try to open. And then if you look at the same people involved in the key voter registration organizations in this country, and then you monitor their communications where they boast about flipping this state, they boast about the 8 million phone calls they made in this state, or the million doors they knocked in this state, and how we flipped Pennsylvania, and how we flipped Michigan, and how we flipped Wisconsin. They say it. All you have to do is connect what they're doing to communist China. So you just go to the places where they talk about their links with China, and then you connect the dots.
What is the agenda of these groups? If they were to get what they wanted, of course you've been studying these groups for 30 years, if they were to get what they wanted, what would that be?
Basically what you have in China now, communism. They want communism. And some of them believe in the old style communism of the Soviet bloc. Some of them it's more the Chinese style communism. But they all want some variation of the communist parties completely controlling the United States of America, where everything is under their control, where their opposition is completely suppressed, where people are in re-education camps or death camps if the re-education camps don't work. They want exactly what the communists that took over Cuba want, the communists that took over China want, every dictatorship around the world, where they came after their enemies, they imprisoned their enemies, they killed their enemies, and they tried to build a new society out of the ashes. That's what they want. They have never given up that dream. So these groups behind Black Lives Matter, that is their goal. If you look at their website, they talk about abolishing the family. They talk about a new society. They talk about socialism. You know, their ideal world is where there are no families. The only family is the state, where we all live in this collective whole. There are no real individuals. All wealth is centrally controlled, and you are just a cog in the machine. It's the beehive society of Plato. You know, you got the ruling class, the soldier class, and everybody else are drones. Everybody else is just part of the machine. And most of these communists want to be part of that ruling class. That's what they want, and they want to have a soldier class to keep all of us in line for eternity.
I think it'd be interesting.
So I wonder how you feel about your decision now. You know, knowing this information, black man, black woman, that's where the other side is good for you. How you feel about that situation? How you feel about it now? Knowing that you just voluntarily veed your rights away, your freedom away. Probably, most likely, you just veed your freedom away, your rights away. We went to that booth. Black man, black woman, even the whites and other races. Hopefully, we still got time, still got hope. Let's see, as the president, Donald Trump, is able to bring out the truth. I'll put it like that. But how you feel now? He said it back in 1964. Still didn't listen. Still haven't listened. Black Democrats are traded to their race. Look what it came down to. Look what it came to. us not having no rights, period. Because y'all didn't listen. Y'all didn't want to listen. We still got chance. We still got hope.